Hello, welcome to Be Free Yoga. I'm Inger. This is my lovely assistant Ananda, and you guys know Rosie. And today is our yoga pose tutorial number 3. This is a 5-part series designed to help beginners get comfortable with basic yoga poses and more advanced yogis to hone their form and alignment. We're building upon the first 2 tutorials where we covered the opening of a yoga class and the warming up, or Sun Salutation A. And today we move on to the flow, or Sun Salutation B. This is a slightly longer flow than the Sun A. It has a larger variety of poses and it gets our heart pumping. You just need your yoga mat, a couple of blocks, which I don't have. Hold on. A couple of blocks. And you may want a blanket rolled up as a prop. I don't think you need a strap today for anything. So we'll do a little tiny integration and then we'll jump right into Sun B. So let's start in Supta Baddha Konasana. Just come to lay on your back. Grab your blocks. Soles of your feet together and knees wide. Place the blocks under your knees for support. And rest one hand on your heart and one hand on your belly. Release all the muscular tension in your body and in your hips so that your knees fall open. And then take a full deep inhale. Feel your belly and your chest rise. And an open mouth exhale. Sigh it out. Again, breathe into your chest and your belly. And sigh it out. One final time. And empty your lungs. And then seal your lips and begin breathing in and out through your nose. The first level of pranayama is breath awareness, and then we move on to controlling the duration of your inhales and exhales. So today, inhale to the count of 4, and exhale to the count of 5. Starting to deepen and lengthen your breath. Let everything that's going on outside this room start to fade away. And begin right here, getting connected with the flow of your breath. On your next inhale, reach down and close your legs like a book. Grab onto the back of your thighs and rock and roll up. You can set your blocks to the side and find your way into tabletop. Wrists under your shoulders, knees under your hips. Spread your fingers wide so you're using all the parts of your hand. Inhale, cow pose, soften your belly, look forward, reach your tailbone high. Imagine drawing your shoulders and your hips together. And then exhale, cat, round your spine, tuck your chin and your tailbone. Let your head hang heavy. Inhale, cow. And exhale, cat. Inhale, cow. And exhale, cat. Come back through neutral tabletop. Push into the tops of your feet and your toenails to activate your glutes and hamstrings. Inhale, open, twist, reach your right arm high. And exhale, thread the needle. Send your right arm under the arch created by your left arm. Bring your cheek and shoulder to rest on your mat or on a block. Push into the back of your arm to rotate your torso even further. Extend your tailbone skyward. One more breath in. One more breath out. Twist a little deeper. Inhale, press into your left hand, reach your right arm high. And come back to neutral tabletop for the other side. Inhale, open twist, left arm high. And exhale, thread the needle. Left cheek and shoulder to the mat or a block. Reach your tailbone high as you press your chest low. Rotate your rib cage. On your next inhale, press into your right hand, left arm high. And exhale into tabletop. Recenter your hands, find your tiger claws, tuck your toes, and exhale into down dog. Lead with your hips. Bend your knees since it's the first down dog of the day, and press your chest low as you reach your tailbone high. Then pedal out your legs. Inhale, look to the top of your mat. And exhale, take tiny steps forward for ragdoll. Feet hip width distance apart. Bend your knees and feel your torso hang heavy over your thighs. Take a heart opener today, interlace your hands. Press your palms together, reach your knuckles high, and relax your head and neck. Big breath in. Exhale, release your grip. Toe heel your feet together. And then roll up slowly, one vertebra at a time with soft knees and a heavy head. Your head and shoulders the last to arrive. Roll your shoulders up and back. And then bring your hands to your heart and close your eyes, Samastitihi. Today is all about the flow. So stay connected to the flow and rhythm of your breath throughout class. And stay committed to not force anything, but rather allow things. Let go of control. And practice trust and acceptance. Take a full deep inhale. Exhale, release your hands, open your eyes, and we begin our Sun B. Inhale into chair pose. Sit low and reach high. In chair pose, you want to shift the weight back into your heels. It's like you're sitting on an invisible throne of power. Seal your legs together if that works in your body. Reach your knees, your chest, and your chin forward. Your arms reach forward diagonally, active triceps, active arms. In the olden days, they used to teach to have your arms straight up, but that tends to pinch your lower back. So modern thinking is a nice diagonal reach. That's beautiful. If you feel any tension in your ankles, you have the option to slip a blanket underneath your heels to help support you. If you feel any tension in your shoulders, you can bring your hands to your heart. I'm going to slip this out. And if you feel any tension in your knees, option to do chair against a wall. Just sit back and allow the wall to support your hips. Beautiful. You still want your knees stacked over your ankles, but that'll help relieve some of the pressure on your knees. Probably a nice relief for Ananda too. All right, let's come back into chair. We have a back bend in chair, so it's just naturally built into the posture. So remember from our other tutorial, you want to keep your belly drawn in to support your lower back. And then you can play with the activation of your legs. If you traction your heels away from each other energetically on your mat, like you're ripping your mat apart, you will feel your sits bones spread. If you imagine drawing your heels to the back of your mat, you'll feel your glutes and hamstrings fire up. So there's so many things that you can be aware of and play with in chair pose. So take one more inhale here, sit a little bit lower. Now reach down, keep your chair pose and touch the floor. Now cement your hips in place. We're even lower than we were and reach your arms back up. That is a fun trick for getting you to really sit low in your chair pose. You can go lower than you think. One more breath in. Exhale, drinking bird. Keep your knees bent, airplane arms, and rise up on your tiptoes. You want to seal your heels together and rise up high on your toes. You may feel a little wobbly, that's okay. Look at Ananda's nice active arms all the way to her fingertips. Her triceps are engaged. She's hinging forward. One more inhale, tweeze your shoulder blades together on your back, spread through your collarbones. And then inhale back into chair. Heels low, weight in your heels, reach high. Another thing we sometimes do is diver. Exhale, diver. It's just like drinking bird, but our legs are straight. I like to imagine that I'm going off a high dive here. Again, if your heels are sealed together, you'll have more stability. Active arms. And inhale back into chair. Next, we're going to move into prayer twist. Bring your hands to heart center. Hinge forward slightly with a long spine. Prayer twist to the left. Bring your right elbow outside your left thigh. The two common things that you should be aware of when you're in prayer twist. One is, are your hips both still facing forward? The way to check this is to look down at your knees and see if they're both still in line. If they're not even, that means your hips have twisted. So bring them back in alignment. And then the second thing we commonly see is people wanting to tip forward, which is natural because your legs are really tired. To get the full benefit of prayer twist, you want your heart higher than your hips. So you'll keep your hips sitting low, your spine long, your wrists and elbows in one line, and then you press your hands towards your heart to deepen the twist of your shoulders. Ananda's weight is still in her heels. Then you have the option to open your arms wide diagonally. This is great for people whose elbows don't quite reach outside their thigh. They can just open their arms from the very beginning. Another option would be to just do chair with an open twist. Like that. You don't even have to hinge forward at all if it doesn't work in your body. Notice how Ananda's arms are at shoulder height. She's still got that nice twist, drawing her top shoulder down her back. So those are a few options for prayer twist. And I feel like we should do it on the other side so that we stay even. But you might want to get up and shake out your legs. Loosen up. We don't normally spend this long in chair. Inhale, chair pose. Remember the option that works for you. What modifications do you need? Exhale, hands to heart. Inhale, hinge forward slightly. And exhale, prayer twist to the right. You can have your hands at your heart. You can automatically open your arms. Make sure your heart is higher than your hips and your knees are in line. You could always have the blanket under your heels. You could also maybe have a block under your front hand if that helps you feel more stable and supported. One more inhale and exhale, forward fold. Hips go high, head goes low. This will feel like a nice relief now. Now, instead of having your weight in your heels, shift it forward into the balls of your feet. Lift up through your tailbone. Let your torso, head, and neck hang heavy. Lovely counter stretch. Inhale, halfway lift. Remember, create a number 7 with your body, hands on your shins. Flatten your shoulder blades on your back and look down at the top of your mat. Big breath in. Exhale, chaturanga of your choice. We covered this in our last yoga pose tutorial. Maybe you're on your knees. Maybe you're on your toes. Maybe you do the tabletop to cow option, and then you lead with your hips into down dog. Now our legs are straight. Press your chest low. Sink your heels to the ground. Big breath in and a big breath out. All right, most of you can come to a seat while Ananda and I demo ways to get from down dog to low lunge. Because in Sun B, we'll often do things involving chair pose. We go through a little chaturanga, and then we're going to move into low lunge. So the most common way is to go through three-legged dog. So you'd lift your right leg high. In three-legged dog, you're sending your lower heel down to the ground and lifting your right heel higher. People have a tendency to want to open their hip in this pose because you can lift your leg higher. And maybe you need to do that for a second because your hips are feeling tight. But again, to fully get the benefit of this posture, you want a closed hip, even if your leg doesn't go as high. Then we're activating our glutes, our back body, and the back of our leg. So reach through your heel and the back seam of your leg. Press into your hands down and forward. Open your shoulders. Press your chest low. Big breath in. Now slowly push into your hands as you step your foot between your hands. This creates space for your knee to find its way through. And you move into low lunge. Now sometimes before we move into low lunge, we like to do some extra things. So you might be in three-legged dog, right leg high, and you get cued knee to nose. For knee to nose, you shift forward into high plank and draw your knee to your nose. You want to think about rounding your spine, pushing into the floor so much that you puff up the valley between your shoulder blade. You make this bottom leg small, drawing your heel towards your glute. Everything's tight and lifted. Inhale back to three-legged dog. Another option is knee to right tricep. Again, we hinge forward to high plank, but our knee comes wide this time, touching the tricep. I'll show it with the other leg so you can see it. Again, pushing into the earth, creating space, elevator that knee higher up your arm, everything's engaged. Then back to your three-legged dog. So it's handy to know about those because as we're stepping forward to low lunge, it may work better in your body to come through a knee to tricep position with your knee wide. Then slowly work your foot in between your hands. Depending on your body type, that can be a really great modification for that transition. Thank you, Ananda. That was so good. Another way that you can get from your down dog to your low lunge, if you're not comfortable lifting your foot off the floor yet, maybe down dog is still a challenge for you and the idea of lifting one foot sounds like too much. You can walk your hands and your feet together towards the center of your mat, then rise up slowly, and then meet in low lunge in a way that is comfortable for you. That's a great option. I encourage you, if you take that option as you build strength in your down dog, to every once in a while, just lift your foot up a tiny bit when I cue three-legged dog. Maybe you just lift it this high and just for a second to start getting used to having your weight in your hands and one foot. And then you can always walk your hands and feet together after that. Another option is to step forward into low lunge without lifting your foot in three-legged dog. But I might argue that if you're comfortable lifting your foot enough to step forward, you're probably comfortable to lift it just for a microsecond to get used to three-legged dog as well. And then the final option, maybe you're tired, you don't even want to do the chaturanga today, and the whole thing sounds like too much. Well, when we're up here in chair doing all our things, and I cue chaturanga and three-legged dog, you could maybe take a nice forward fold or a stretch or a twist or anything that feels good for you. And when the rest of the class gets to low lunge, well, then you just step back and find your low lunge. Remember, it's your class, and so you should do what's right for you. Now let's talk about our low lunge form a little bit. Now to put right leg forward. So again, your foot is between your hands. It is common to want to collapse down in low lunge, letting your torso rest on your thigh. It's helpful to tent your fingers so that you bring your weight into your feet and not into your hands. And then think of drawing your belly off your thigh and lengthening your spine. If you have trouble reaching the floor in low lunge, that's where your blocks come in. They're always there to bring the floor closer to you. Another great modification is to simply lower your back knee on the floor. Then you can really focus on the hip opening and a little bit less on the strength required to keep yourself lifted for so long. And oftentimes we'll do that intentionally in class as well. But if I don't cue it, it's always there for you. So when you're in low lunge, make sure your hips are level and check in with your front knee. Notice how Ananda's front knee is stacked nicely over her ankle. If she were to decide to lunge further, sink her hips lower, it's possible her knee might start to extend past her ankle a little, and that would be her cue to widen her stance a little bit. You always want to have joints stacked on top of each other. If I ever cue runner's lunge, this is the same thing, except our feet are inside, our foot is outside our hands, like that. It causes more of a hip opener. This is another great place to lower your back knee and hang out for a while. If you're ever lowering your back knee and doing a runner's lunge, you could even come down onto your forearms or bring your forearms onto some blocks and think about sending your chest below your lifted thigh. Bet that feels good, right, Nanda? All right, so before we move on, I want everybody to have a chance to find the way that works for them. So when you go to class, you're going to be comfortable knowing how you want to get from down dog to low lunge. So let's all meet in down dog and try the various options. You can pause the video if you want, or maybe you know what you want to try. Big inhale and then exhale. Find the way that works for you. Once you're in low lunge, have your good low lunge form, weight in your feet, spine long and lifted. Then inhale, open twist. Reach your right arm high. When you come into an open twist, it's very common for your right hip to lift up. So try and send it back down, level your hips. This brings your twist into your middle and upper back. Again, you could always have a block under your grounded hand to bring the floor closer to you, and you always have the option to lower your back knee. So that's something common that you might see when we're in a low lunge. Let's take one more breath in our open twist, and then exhale back down to low lunge. Inhale, warrior two. Plant your back heel, and then take up space as you windmill your arms open into warrior two. Our back foot in warrior two, you'll notice Ananda's toes are pointing a little bit towards the front of the room rather than being perfectly sideways. You want to pigeon toe those as much as possible, whereas her front toes are pointed straight ahead. You want your knee stacked over your ankle, and you want to be firmly grounded in both feet. One thing I notice in warrior two is that oftentimes people can go lower than they think they can, and they may be kind of tired that day, so they're way up here. And then you tell people, sink your hips lower, and suddenly you see the whole room like, wow, they can go a lot lower than they thought. Again, when you do that, there's the possibility that your front knee will extend past your ankle. And if that happens, simply toe heel your foot forward a little bit so you can have that nice low stance. That's beautiful. The other thing we see a lot is some people might have tight hips, and so their front knee is pigeoning? What do you call it when your front knee?
Knocking?
Knocking in. Thank you. Your front knee might knock in. You want to really engage the middle of your right glute to open that front knee, but it'll look different for everybody just depending on your hips. So long as you feel that engagement, that's what's important. Your arms are active, reaching in opposing directions. Sometimes I like to imagine pushing down on something to fire up my triceps. And you look majestically over the front of your hand like you are a warrior. Notice how Ananda's shoulders are stacked over her hips. She's not leaning forward or leaning back. And you're grounding into your front heel and the outside edge of your back foot. I think that's pretty much it. So take a big breath in here, and then exhale, side angle. You'll want to reach forward, shifting your torso, and then bring your arms to north and south. Beautiful. So common things that we see when we move into side angle is people collapsing down like that because they're very flexible, but they're also kind of tired, and they're like, oh, I'm just gonna chill here on the floor. This posture, we want to keep a long, active spine. So I would rather have your hand off the floor, just lightly touching. Maybe you don't go quite as low, but you have your lower obliques supporting your torso. You rotate your shoulders skyward. Your arms are reaching north and south. If you're comfortable, you can look up, but you can also look down for stability. And we have our hips staying low. Maybe you can sink a little lower than you think. Beautiful. You also always have the option to have a block under your front hand, or you can rest your forearm on your thigh, like a little shelf. Maybe that'll allow you to focus more on your rotation. By looking up, we're bringing this twist into our cervical spine, which always feels really good. And then inhale, reverse warrior. Reach up and back with your right hand. The things we see in reverse warrior, sometimes people collapse into their left side body here. So you're always going to bend more in that side of your body, but it's helpful to just imagine lengthening both sides and then going back. You can rest your back hand lightly on your thigh, and you look up past your arm. And the other thing we see is people coming, since we're reaching up, the tendency is to want to come out of your lunge. So really make sure that you're reaching your hips low and your torso high. Sometimes you'll say, inhale, lengthen, exhale, deepen. And you can keep doing that with each breath to pull you further into this posture. Now we're going to move into triangle. Straighten your front leg. Sash your hips to the back of the room. I love that idea. Feel a little sassy. As you reach forward like we did before, and then bring your arms to north and south. In triangle, I like to imagine, I'm sure you've heard this in class, being sandwiched between two panes of glass. If you're collapsing down in this pose, chances are your torso is moving forward. So you can think of lifting and lengthening your spine and then bringing your shoulders back in line with your legs, like you're between two panes of glass. You have a block here if you need it on any setting that works for you, just inside your foot. Again, your hips move to the back of the room as your torso lengthens forward. Maybe you can have your arms to north and south and find a gaze that works for you. Could be up, could be down, whatever feels good in your body. If you have a tendency to hyperextend your front leg, keep a micro bend in your leg. That will bring it out of your joints and into your muscles. So you can develop that strength to keep your joint safe. I, in triangle, like to imagine drawing energy up from the earth through my legs into my spine. That creates that length we were talking about, that lift. And I believe when you imagine it, you really do it. And you can think about opening your hips. This is an open hip posture. So we're really stacking this left hip over the right hip. And then we can move into reverse triangle. Ground into your feet as you reach up and back. Now sash your hips forward. They move in the opposite direction. Again, your hand rests lightly on your thigh, lengthening both sides of our body just like we did in reverse warrior. One thing I want to point out in side angle, Ananda, can you go back to side angle real quick? A lot of times teachers in classes will interchange side angle and extended side angle. Technically, side angle is when your arms are to north and south, and extended side angle is when this arm extends overhead. That's a fun one to do because then you can really feel the rotation of your shoulders when your hand moves overhead like that. But they might say extended side angle. I was guilty of this for many of my classes, you'll notice. And actually, I'm doing side angle. So just look at what the teacher's doing. Do what feels good to you. Okay, let's go back to reverse triangle. And we're going to exhale into a chaturanga. Take the chaturanga that works for you. You can play with an ekapada here, which Ananda will demonstrate, where you float your right foot off the floor, but you want to make sure you're in high plank, not in the down dog arms when you do this. Then you can hinge forward, lower halfway. Inhale into up dog, bring the tops of your feet onto the floor, thighs off the floor. Then lead with your hips into down dog. I'm not going to go into detail into ekapadas. I just wanted to briefly demonstrate that you have to be in a high plank position to keep your shoulders safe even when you have that one foot floated. Now we will do some things on the other side. Inhale, lift your left leg high, and exhale, low lunge. How are you going to get there? What works best for you? Find your good low lunge form. Ankle under your knee, weight in your feet, long lifted spine, hips are low. Then inhale, crescent lunge. Ground into your feet and rise up. We have a back bend in this posture, so you want to keep your Uddiyana Bandha engaged, drawing your belly button up and in. What I like to do is bend my back leg slightly, draw my belly in to neutralize my spine, and then hold it there while I straighten my back leg. You want your back heel stacked over the ball of your foot and your front leg bent, knee stacked over your ankle, sinking low. If you feel any pain in your shoulders or your arms get tired, you can always bring your hands to your heart. And you also have the option to lower your back knee, just like we did in our lunges. So inhale, come back to an active crescent lunge. Exhale, open twist to the left. Bring your left arm back and your right arm forward. I love twisting in a crescent lunge because your hips are automatically trapped facing forward, and so your twist really, as you'll see on Ananda, has to come from your middle and upper back. It's a great balance challenge. Her arms are active and at shoulder height. Her back heel is still spiked. Then you can inhale into exalted warrior. Tick-tock your right arm high and rest your left hand lightly on your thigh. It's helpful to imagine someone's hand in your upper back behind your heart, lifting it up. And then to complete the pose, if it works in your body, gaze up past your hand. Beautiful. One more breath in here. Again, you could always, if balance is a challenge, you can always do this with your back knee on the floor. And then we exhale into revolve crescent lunge. Bring your hands to your heart, keep your twist, and bring your right elbow outside your left thigh. We have a lot of the same considerations here that we did in our prayer twist. We want to keep our spine long and lifted, pressing our hands towards heart center to deepen the twist. You still have the option to open your arms if you need more leverage, if it feels good to you. And you can always have your back knee on the floor. Beautiful. I feel like a lot of people tend to be tired by this point in class and let their torso collapse onto their thigh. It's very restful when you do this. So I like to cue on every inhale, draw your belly off your thigh. staying long and lifted. I remember Ananda one time told me she hated it when I said that because it's like, oh, I'm busted. I think of that every time I cue it. But it's true. It's one of those love-hate things. One more inhale and exhale, release into your low lunge. And let's show them star and horse real quick. I guess you'll have to switch your legs out. With your right leg forward in a low lunge, inhale star pose. You can plant your back heel and a windmill up again. Now we point our toes to the corners of the long edge of our mat and reach our arms up diagonally. Star pose is one of my favorites. You've probably heard me say before that as women, especially in our culture, we're encouraged to be small in our bodies, small in our energy. And in star, we're encouraged to take up space. So really think about filling the room with your breath and with your body. If you activate the back of your body, all the muscles in the back, you'll be expressing through the front of your body. Engage both glutes to open your hips more. Keep your belly drawn in to protect your lower back. And you can also think of engaging your pelvic floor, your Mula Bandha. That will help draw the energy up through your feet and send it to the higher chakras. So one more inhale here in star, and then exhale into horse. Bring your hands to your heart and sink your hips low. Check in with your knees. Make sure they're not extending past your ankles. Tendency is to want to lean forward, so make sure your shoulders are back, stacked over your hips. Another tendency is for your knees to want to roll forward. That may happen if you have tight hips, but engage your glutes, roll onto the outside edges of your feet, and really try and draw your knees open. Proud chest, relax shoulders. With each exhale, maybe you can sink a little bit deeper, challenge yourself. Beautiful. One more inhale and sink a little bit lower. Then burst open to star again. Take up space. Exhale, warrior two. Pivot your toes forward. Check in with your front knee. Relax your shoulders. Inhale, reverse warrior. And exhale, chaturanga. Chance to try the Ekapada. Or not, keep your heart open as you lower down. Inhale, up dog, and exhale, down dog. Look to the top of your mat and come through to a seat. That's it. Those are our common Sun B poses. There's a lot more that can go on there, but with this solid basis, you'll be comfortable in most yoga classes. Now, should we close out in Shavasana? Everybody likes a little Shavasana at the end. So come to lay on your back. Let your feet fall out as your hips open. Wrap your shoulder blades underneath you, creating a shelf for your heart. Face your palms up. Relax the muscles in your face. And get heavy in your bones. Reconnect with your breath as I read you a quote by Sybil Tomlinson. Yoga is about clearing away whatever is in us that prevents our living in the most full and whole way. With yoga, we become aware of how and where we are restricted in body, mind, and heart, and how to gradually open and release these blockages. As these blockages are cleared, our energy is freed and we start to feel more harmonious, more at one with ourselves. Our lives begin to flow, or we begin to flow more in our lives. Pause here for a few moments. Give yourself this little mini vacation on your mat. Before you attempt any movement, start to deepen and lengthen your breath. Wiggle your fingers and your toes. Circle out your ankles and your wrists. Let your head fall to one side and then to the other. And take a long good morning stretch. Point your toes, reach your arms overhead, soften your belly, full breath in. And exhale into fetal pose on your favorite side, curling up using your bicep as a pillow. As you move into the rest of your week, stay connected to the flow you've established today. Rather than forcing, go through your week allowing. On your next inhale, push into your top hand, come up to an easy seat on your mat. Bring your prayer hands to third eye center. The light, the love, the teacher, the student, and the hot mess in me recognizes and adores the light, the love, the teacher, the student, and the hot mess in each of you. Namaste. Thanks so much for being here today. It's always an honor to practice with you. And we'll see you next time for balancing postures in our yoga pose tutorial number 4. Have a great day.